All right, well, I think we're going to officially get started. People may be rolling in, but I wanted to welcome everyone again. I'm Tony Guglielmo, and I'm delighted that you're here for Unsung Heroes and STEAM. And go ahead and keep posting a greeting in the chat. We'd love to see where you're joining from. Just so everyone knows, you've been muted upon entry to help us with our background sound. But you can please open the chat and make sure that you have access to that, and we will be looking at the chat to monitor questions and have time for Q&A throughout the program. Also, this program is being recorded, and I also want to remind everyone that as we gather, we are convening in a very collegial gathering today that is collaborative learning and respectful of all the diverse opinions that we are bringing to the conversation. And Katie is posting a code of conduct in the chat. I also want to let you know that there's a lesson plan that has been prepared that we're going to be working through today. So please be sure that you can access that in the chat. We're posting that link now for the lesson plan. And that you can also gather some pencils and paper and crayons to be prepared to work through some of the activities that we're going to be talking through. So everyone get settled, and then we're going to begin. We're going to be together for about an hour and 15 minutes, so about 75 minutes. So to officially introduce myself, I'm Tony Guglielmo, Director of ARTEFFECT with the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes. And I am joined today on the call by my team members here that I'd like to introduce quickly. Michael Kay, who's Digital Media Editor with the Lowell Milken Family Foundation. Michael, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael. I've seen so many of you before, but I'm excited again to see new faces here, new names.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And also we have joining us Katie Ward, who's a program assistant with ARTEFFECT.
Hi, nice to see you all here. I'm excited to see how you participate in this module.
Thank you, Katie. And today we also have our guests joining us from Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes in Fort Scott, Kansas. I'm delighted to introduce and welcome Norm Kennard, who is the Executive Director for the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes. Norm, would you like to say a greeting to the group?
Yes, thank you, Tony. We are excited about this and recognize a lot of familiar names coming into the Zoom. So we're very excited about this evening and what's going on. And I have Megan and Karen.
Great. Megan and Karen, please unmute yourselves and say hello to the group and a quick introduction.
Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Felt. I'm the program director at the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes in Fort Scott, Kansas. I'm so excited to join you this evening and hear from Jen Braverman and all the exciting information she's going to share with us tonight. So I'm just excited to be here to join you this evening.
Hi, I'm Karen Wilterding. I'm the online communications director here at the Lowell Milken Center in Fort Scott. And just welcome to everybody. It's nice to see you all. And I'm so excited to hear from Jen tonight and her wonderful topic of STEAM Heroes.
All right, excellent. So nice to have our colleagues joining us from Fort Scott, Kansas. So welcome again to all of our ambassadors that are on the call. Our ARTEFFECT ambassadors are part of an inaugural cohort of K-12 teachers around the country and Canada that are piloting a program with us this year to bring ARTEFFECT curriculum into their classrooms and communities. And we have 28 ambassadors in this cohort, and so many of you are on the call, and it's really nice to see so many of you. So welcome. Welcome to all of returning participants that have been joining us on these ARTEFFECT professional development sessions, as well as our newcomers. So on the next slide, I just wanted to give you an overview for those of, I know so many of you have obviously know Unsung Heroes. We've been saying Unsung Heroes, but for those of you who are new, I just wanted to take a moment to define what makes the Lowell Milken Center Unsung Hero. So these are individuals who are largely unrecognized for their contributions and who took extraordinary actions that improved the lives of others and made a positive and profound impact on the course of history. So they took actions that were in service to others and society, and obviously have been largely unrecognized, and therefore they're unsung. And Lowell Milken Center has a group of unsung heroes that we are working with in this program, a list of individuals that I know many of you have been looking at and reviewing for your work with ARTEFFECT this year. So in the next slide, just to give you a quick overview of ARTEFFECT. So ARTEFFECT invites, so this is kind of the mission of ARTEFFECT. We invite educators and their students to explore the diverse stories of these unsung heroes and their invaluable lessons as role models from history through the visual arts. And ARTEFFECT is an expanding initiative. Right now, it includes an annual competition for middle and high school students that's currently open through May 1st. We also have exhibitions of the award-winning student artworks and this professional development, which includes the ambassadors that I just mentioned, as well as these online sessions and lesson plans and other resources that we're developing. And in the next slide, I wanted to just kind of give just a step back for a moment in the overall goals of these efforts and all of these activities. So ARTEFFECT has 3 overarching goals. One is to support professional development for educators like yourself so that you can engage with this material and deepen your instructional practice. The other is, of course, to strengthen student learning through the visual arts. And that is, working with the competition, working with these lessons in the classroom, really exploring the unsung heroes as role models and some character development in the lesson plan, and all of that to help students discover their own power to make a difference through their artwork and to affect positive change through the artwork that they create. And then the third goal is to inspire others through the stories of unsung heroes. So through all this activity, directly teachers and students may be inspired, but that the wider community beyond our classroom is also inspired and motivated to affect positive change, to see other heroes that are everyday heroes that can be honored and recognized through this work. And this kind of all relates to our founder's vision. And I put a statement here from Mr. Lowell Milken, the founder of Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes. One individual has the power to make a positive and profound difference in the lives of others. And so this really speaks to the vision that guides our work, that is, obviously the unsung heroes who've made a difference, teachers and like yourselves that make a difference, and the students that can make a difference through their art. So I'd like to thank our funder for that. Okay, and on the next slide, I want to introduce our program for today, which is Unsung Heroes in STEAM. And I'm so delighted that we have as our instructor today, Jen Braverman. So Jennifer Braverman is someone that I've gotten to know over the course of the last year, and she is someone who is multifaceted. She's the perfect person to teach this module because she is an author, an artist, an activist, an educator. She's an entrepreneur, so she brings like all the right brain, left brain, multifaceted dimensions to her work that we're going to be talking about in the STEAM lesson today. And, one of the things that I was talking to Jen about is just, how important this topic is. We're talking about collaboration as an important part of STEAM, and how this is a 21st century skill. We talked about hot groups, which is something that workplaces and industry are forming groups to work together, to bring together interdisciplinary people across the organization to collaborate, so that there's the artists and the creative people along with the analysts and the data people. So I think that this lesson is focused on the unsung heroes, but it has wider implications for teaching and learning with our students. And Jen is a 2020 fellow from the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes. She's the recipient of numerous awards. As I mentioned, she's an author of coloring books, educational coloring books that we're going to hear about, and using those as a tool. And she's prepared this robust lesson plan, which is in the chat. So be sure that you grab that. And so I am going to allow Jen to share some more about her background and expertise and turn it over to her now. So welcome, Jennifer Braverman.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'm really excited to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces and names, and it's really just an honor to be able to present such an important topic that I'm passionate about. So yes, please, while I do my quick intro, download this lesson plan. We're going to break the lesson plan into really digestible parts, and I encourage you to use as much of it that you feel will connect with your classroom in some capacity. So I have a lot of different hats that I wear. For the past 16 years, I've been a high school art teacher. I have taught AP studio art, drawing and painting, digital mixed media, sculpture and ceramics, really everything in the realm of the visual arts. I currently teach at Maple Shade High School in New Jersey, which is only 10 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So I'm very close, very East Coast bound, which is why I'm excited to be able to reach teachers from all different states. It's a real great opportunity. I've advised the National Art Honor Society. I also have been an adjunct at the College of New Jersey for 10 years in the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies Department. So I have a very interesting lens, having degrees in art education and WGS. And the 4 educational coloring books that Tony talked about, I'll briefly mention the circle, the trajectory of where my coloring books have gone over actually 18 years from when I first started doing coloring books to the newest one, which is just about being produced currently. And I started this new professional development called Braver Schools, which Tony will thank you, Katie, will add into the chat. My goal is to have teachers training teachers. I've been in a lot of professional development that doesn't relate to our content. This training uses a visual art lens, and I've worked on various different topics. I also am a mother to a 5-year-old, and my triplets just turned 2. So I add that because that's a whole other dimension to my life. And I everything, as my life changes, I just keep adding things along, and everything I do is basically it's inspired by my passion for the arts. So you have my website here, my email, and I'm going to jump right in. So let's talk about STEAM. Like Tony said, it's very robust. We have a lot of topics. I'm going to take you through my lesson plan. We're going to do some interactive activities, and I'm sure that you're going to connect with some of this content. The first section is going to be STEM versus STEAM, and we're jumping right in. Perfect. STEM versus STEAM. Why do we need art? I'm talking to a lot of educators, several art educators, so this may seem obvious, but I want to talk. We're doing a lesson plan from the start about STEAM. Let's talk about the history of it. So on the next slide, you can see, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but the acronym stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, Mathematics. We're putting the art, in my opinion, and in a lot of research shows that art emphasizes the importance of creativity, design thinking, and I put this in bold, the human aspect in the fields associated with STEM. It all relates. So it's kind of the umbrella concept, the umbrella skill in the 21st century that everybody needs, right? I took a lot of these elements and simplified it to this acronym called RACERS. And I think these are the pieces that really brought STEM into STEAM, because there was a rise of innovation and creativity. There was advocacy for holistic education. We want to teach the whole child, right? Not just one element. We're more than linear thinkers. There was cultural and economic shifts. We are now recognizing the importance of the design process and their support from industry leaders. In the lesson plan, I go into this a little bit more depth. You'll see a little bit more about these categories. But do you have, what's your basic knowledge about STEAM or STEM? If you want to add some thoughts in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. Are there any other elements you think that I've missed in STEAM? Let's see.
I'm going to unmute myself.
Okay.
Hi, this is Jada Puglisi. I wholeheartedly believe STEAM is the way, because that artistic, it really adds a sense of empathy into the mix, and it really helps the students connect on a deeper level. The STEAM is really where schools should be thinking if they aren't already thinking in that capacity, because it just adds that human element to something that can be extremely scientific, but it blends together naturally in nature. And I think it's a great way to capture that. So
Thank you. And I see a couple thoughts in the chat happening.
Oh, may I unmute myself?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
please.
cool. Yes, I am so glad you added art to the STEM, because art is always so underappreciated. They think it always just like secondary, but there's been so many studies like playing the piano helps you with mathematics insanely. And then, and then also like when you're visual thinking, like sometimes you're doing a mathematical problem or you're thinking of something scientific, but visualizing it through the arts, like making a picture of it, going through it helps you achieve that also well. So I just really think that art is so integral, not only for the human part, which is really amazing also too, but then also in that it clicks things in your brain, different ways of achieving something that helps with mathematics, with technology, with everything in terms of that. So I do think the art is crucial to STEM.
Absolutely. Let's get to the Tony, you want to read out any of the highlights from the chat and then we'll transition to the next
Yes, for
slide.
sure. So we have Debbie Bobber who's saying architecture, engineering. I think she's underlining the importance of the arts to those disciplines. And we heard from Leslie, who says STEAM is a really important and gifted education to embed it in everything we do, even in social studies. So like sort of like an integrated approach, I think is what she's underscoring there. And I wanted to just say as well that, we're all like, coming together from a visual arts, more or less, with our interests right here in visual arts, looking at how the arts go into STEM. But I also wanted to acknowledge that the STEM informs the arts. So as like working in the arts, we are, can use some of that structure, technology to engineering, mathematics to enhance our artwork. So, we tend to like go, oh yeah, of course we need it in the STEM, but we also need STEM in the arts. And so I just wanted to say it's reciprocal.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next slide. So Jamie made a great point. He already helped me transition to now we're going to talk about our brains. So what I like to do is, let's go to the next slide, restructuring our brains. One of the first activities I do with most of my drawing students is let's talk about our brain, and then I have students draw their brains. These are 3 examples from different years. The other thing I like to do is when I talk about art in class, sometimes, of course, it's ideal to have the actual samples with you, but instead of just putting them on a blank PowerPoint, I sometimes make a visual gallery, and I just find that students are a little bit more interested. It just gives it another visual. So by using a gallery backdrop, it really helps just from a visual cohesive element. So these are examples, and as you look at these examples, these are based on when students learn about the brain. We have our left side, our logical side, and then we have the right creative side. Everybody, we tend to use a little bit more of this side or that side, but they work in tandem. It's very important that we push into our strengths, push into our logic, push into our creativity, and try to think differently. The whole concept of STEM and STEAM is work beyond, thinking outside the box, innovating, collaboration, design thinking. All of those skills are beyond the classroom. And these are visual examples. I like the first one a lot because even the way the glasses are done, you can see the way the student drew just traditional glasses with sunglasses to show the 2 different halves of the brain. One student used color in the more creative half, and the other student was a musician. So actually his logical side, he drew patterns and a section of a guitar to represent those interests. And then the other side is just more creativity. I'll show you one more slide of examples. This was a student that just decided to draw the 2 faces, showing the 2 halves of the face, and you can see think and create. And then the other student, it's just a complete visual explosion of what was happening inside his brain. So by just saying, let's learn about the brain, the left and the right side in a basic lesson plan, and then let's draw our brain. The prompt is just draw 5 interests on both halves of your brain, and you can see the direction that students take it is completely different. So it's a great way just to introduce our brains And then the next transition activity I do is the Stroop effect. So the Stroop effect was dropped in the chat. We're going to click on the Stroop effect, which is a psychology challenge. All right. And then this resource is great. I always hyperlink this into my Google Classroom, and students can learn more about the Stroop effect. And that's in the lesson plan too. You see congruent versus incongruent. Basically, your left and your right side are going to fight each other. So we're going to do an activity right now. See, we're going to run an experiment. What you're going to do, and you can unmute yourself. You're going to read this out loud. We're going to read the color of the word. And we're going to follow Peter's mouse along the way. So we're going to go to the first test.
Peter, can you make that full screen?
And we'll zoom in a little bit bigger. Warm up your brains. Get it ready. Whew, perfect. Okay, so we're going to follow the mouse, and we're going to go the color of the word as fast as we can. Ready, set, go. Red.
Okay, we need to unmute everyone.
Green.
Yeah,
Blue.
unmute blue.
Yellow,
Shout out those
pink,
words.
orange, blue,
green,
blue,
white, green, yellow, orange,
orange, blue, white,
brown, red,
red,
blue,
yellow, green, pink,
yellow,
yellow,
blue,
red.
yeah.
All right. So while we weren't necessarily in sync and it wasn't beautiful, we did it, and it was really easy, right? Because it was synced up. The logical side saw red. The creative side was like, it's red is red. I'm used to red. So we're going to do it again. Same thing, as fast as we can. You're saying the color of the word, and you're going to feel your brain fight yourself. You're going to feel that tension. Ready? The color
Everyone
of the word.
unmute yourselves.
We're going to go as fast as we can.
Green,
Ready?
Green,
yellow,
white,
white,
Blue,
orange,
yellow,
white, orange,
Color of the word.
yellow, green,
red.
blue.
Oh my gosh.
green, pink, yellow,
blue, orange, red,
Green.
green.
All right. Woof. How did that feel? You can,
Oh my gosh, that was hard.
hard. Anyone else struggle? Why was it hard?
I needed time to think about, like, what color was the word, and not, say the word instead.
So your brain, you literally felt that your brain started out strong, then not so much. Because and imagine if this was 100 words, right? So this is just a little snapshot. By the end of that, you'd be so tired. Your brain would actually be tired, because you're fighting. It's congruent versus incongruent. Red should be red, but I'm looking at red and seeing that it's green. So I do this activity, and there's other interactions. So if we go back to the Stroop effect, Peter, if you click on that, and you could scroll down. Like I say, I like to put this whole link directly on my Google Classroom. It explains about it, and it gives you even more. You keep going down a little bit more activity. So we're not going to do these, but it shows you directional Stroop effects. So it's like an arrow. If it goes up, down, left, right, numbers, animals. There's a picture of a cow, and then the word is pig. Your brain fights it. So the next activity I do with students, as we're building our brain challenges, let's go to the next slide, is I have them create their own Stroop effect. And this is great. So this is a very short, quick assignment. I have 2 examples here. I show the first one. So this student drew apps, and they labeled them as different apps. Your brain's going to fight it. I've had students who drew logos. They drew Nike and wrote Adidas. They drew food, labeled an apple as a banana. The same thing. It has to be in the same category. That's the one thing. If I have a car and I write donut on the steering wheel, it's not going to have the same effect. But if I write bumper on the steering wheel, it might. The one next to it, the student did her Stroop effect. She chose dogs. This one wasn't as successful because, first off, a lot of people don't know dog types as niche as she did. And the way the words are written, it doesn't fight it as much. But I do like to show that. I think it's important to show sometimes examples that don't work, because I'm very passionate about process over product a lot of times. And so even if the student didn't quite achieve it, she still learned about the Stroop effect. She still tried to create that challenge. So our first quick drawing activity It's true. It's still a beautiful drawing. It's just not quite the Stroop effect. We're only going to give you 3 minutes just to plan out if you had to do your own Stroop effect. You can draw it next to you. You can do it digital. Pick a topic and just do a quick little Stroop effect. Could be food, could be sports, you could do your own. That's just the words, colors in different colors. So we're going to give you a quick draw for 3 minutes. And this, like I said, is not a full, it's just a quick sketchbook assignment. Ooh, let's look at Deborah's. Oh, she did musical notes. Oh, I love that. I could see Deborah did musical notes. I'm trying to look at the little pictures, everyone's little icon. Oh, that's cool. And are you a music teacher?
No, I just love music, so.
But that could be used, you know, even as a separate lesson, picking that topic. Let's look at Avery. I'm trying to see, or Tony, can you see some of these pictures? Let's look. Like silverware, things in the kitchen. I could see Avery did like mug, plate, and that works.
Yeah, Avery, do you want to unmute and describe what you did? And I also saw Galen. Maybe we could hear from both of those participants. Tell us what you chose. And
I did do kitchen items, and I thought about a house or something like that, but then I couldn't decide, like, if you did a building instead of a house or a house instead of a building. So the kitchen items just came to me quicker because I just ate supper.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect timing.
How
And who
about
else?
Galen? Galen, did you want to share out? See, if you do, you can unmute yourself. Oh, she's connecting to audio. There you go. And now we need to unmute. Okay. Go ahead, Galen. Oh no, it seems like we're having a little trouble hearing her. All right, well, we will come back to you.
Come back. Oh, emojis. Yeah, emojis are great. I have had students, one of the interesting ones was flags, and then they actually used it in their history class. I saw that Leslie's a history teacher and did presidents. So there's a lot, and you could do this digitally, right? So this is something like if you found pictures of presidents and you put different text over them. I've seen people do planets, math symbols. So this, you can see it can go in a lot of directions, but again, we're pushing, you know, how we think. That's what our focus is. So let's go to the next slide. We got a lot going on. The next embellishment of this lesson, I show Rajasena. Rajasena is an incredible artist. We're going to watch a short clip interview with her. She is a quadridextrous artist. So she can draw with both hands and both feet at the same time, from the Netherlands. And I show her as one of the first earlier artists in the school year because obviously she's prolific and incredibly talented, but also I like in this little video the way she says you should enjoy the process over the product. And while her products are really, you know, beautiful, they're still the process is really important. And she just discovered it. She actually started as a child model and then discovered she could draw. And then, like you heard her say, she was interviewed, said, "Hey, can you draw with the toe?" And lo and behold, she can do all of these portraits. But she says art should process over product. And it's just really interesting to watch her experience. So I show her work, and then the next slide is another extension opportunity, is the Association of the Mouth and Foot Painting Artists. And they are they're actually an international group, and their tagline, and the link was just dropped in the chat, is self-help, not charity. So they create these beautiful pieces of art using their mouth and feet. Some of them were born with different abilities, you know, using only one arm or one limb, and some had accidents, and that's when they started to do art. There's a whole range of skill, but they're all really passionate about creating art, and they sell their work through the website. So I have had students do non-traditional drawing. The most common one I have them do is they draw with their non-dominant hand. And I think, again, that's another activity. We don't have as much time in this webinar, but that's a great activity to do. Draw with your non-dominant hand. I know one of the presenters a couple modules ago talked about blind contours. We do blind contours with both the left and the right hand. So there's a lot you can do building off of this unit. All right. Believe it or not, that was all just step 2. So let's get to step 3. This is where I talk about coloring books as educational tools and coloring outside the lines. And where the Milken Center has come in has been really exciting because I've created 2 books with them. The second book isn't officially out yet, but it's almost out. So let's look. There's been a lot of research about the importance of coloring for therapeutic reasons, for dexterity, so much out there. And coloring books are now beyond just for kids. Now, I created these 2 coloring books. I'm going to do a short version of my story with coloring books. The first book, Women Coloring the World, I actually did in 2006 as an independent study because at the time there were I didn't see any great resources for young girls. I saw a lot of stereotypical coloring book pages. So I wanted to create this book, and it's all women around the world that were, coloring the world, changing the world, making their mark. I did that in 2006, and then I remade it more polished in 2010. 2012, I said, wait, kids need role models. People want to see themselves. We all, as teachers and educators, I'm sure you've heard about mirrors and windows and doors and how important representation is. You want to show representation outside of yourself. So why can't kids see kids? So I made Courageous Children Coloring the World, and these were kids all over the world making a difference. So fast forward to the next slide, which is when I connected with, and I was very fortunate to be a Milken Center Fellow. I was one of the fellows of 2020, and then in technically 2021 was when I went because of the pandemic. And I said to the fine people here, I see my friends here, Norm and Megan and Karen, right? I said, wait a second, we need a coloring book, because coloring books are great resources. They're also not just, it's my coloring books, and I know the ambassadors have the book with them, but the one I'm plugging, right, it's the Unsung Heroes, the first one right here with Gordon Parks on the cover. So in the books, each book has an illustration, but also a brief biography of the person. And that's great because as students are so dependent on technology, sometimes it's nice to just give them a coloring book that is also a resource and say, let's learn about these heroes. And then the new one is I'm just in the final editing stages, right, Megan and Norm and Karen? Megan has a copy in her hand, but it's not officially released yet, but it's going to be out soon. And this is all about, interesting, it's full circle. So 2006, now it's 2023, Color Unsung Heroes, and this is all women. Again, it's focusing on courageous women. So I think that's kind of cool just professionally, but I'm going to show you how do we use these coloring books. So the next slide. This year I asked for a class set. This is a couple of my students, and I said, let's start from the beginning. Let's look through this book. I want you to read, not use your phones, not use the internet. Let's look at the pictures and see who you connect with. You can draw their faces, you can draw their interests. I just wanted them to kind of doodle and pick 5 people from the book to look through. So we did do that. They also colored the pictures. Coloring is for everybody. It's like I said, there's a lot of resource, and I have links in my lesson plan about how powerful coloring is. So I had them use the coloring books to sketch, color, connect, even though they're high school students. Now, of course, you can use this in elementary and younger ages, but let me show you the next slide. So the other thing that I did with these books, and I created this intentionally for this purpose, the last page of this book is Unsung Hero trading cards. And the whole concept is you can photocopy these pages and have mini versions of each hero. You can swap the heroes, you can color the heroes, and it creates a more interactive experience with the coloring book. So as you're looking at the pictures, you can cut right along the lines and say, okay, well, wait, Cheyenne Webb's, she looks really interesting to me. And you can pair students together. You could have multiple class sets. There's a lot you could build using this resource. Even though it's a coloring book, it can be a really valuable resource. So this is another extension. And then even those of you that have your coloring books with you, you can feel free to be coloring while I'm talking right now. And it's a great filler. When I have students that finish projects early, I have a whole coloring book section. And I also pick somebody, be inspired, color, draw, etc.
Jen, I wanted to jump in because there's an important point I wanted to share when you and I were looking at this handout which you posted in the chat. Everyone has a copy of this this 2 pages. But what we were talking about is how the coloring really helps, I think, empathize with the hero, because you're getting, as Jen was saying, fine motor skills, attention to detail, kind of like the blind contour drawing, the careful looking, that you really become, as a first step, acquainted with the individual, even though the artwork that a student produces may not be a portrait. It's kind of like a first entry to connecting on an empathetic way with this person's like face and visage and identity.
And I know some of you are familiar previously with, I did a one line, one world movement where we tried to draw as many people as possible in one continuous line, and we kept connecting the portraits. And so when you're drawing somebody, their face, exactly what Tony said, you're empathizing, you're studying their features, and there's some connections that happen. All right, so let's keep going to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about, so I do a speed meets. It's similar to, I find that sometimes when you have a lot of time for a lesson, that doesn't necessarily make it better. So in the beginning, I like to create a sense of urgency, and I have a lot of speed activities. So we're to meet the unsung heroes, specifically focusing on STEAM. We're going to go to the next slide. I have this resource, which is going to be in the chat that I made. Students can use this chat, this resource. They also can use their sketchbooks. It depends, what your students have access to. But I have this unsung heroes. Even the visual of the little lightning bolt in the brain. We're pushing innovation. We're pushing collaboration. So this is the opening slide. And then in the worksheet, it has each category: science, math, technology, engineering, art. So if you go to the Speed Meets link, and we click on that, that's going to take us to the website, Lowell Milken, or the Unsung Heroes. Let's click on that. Peter, yeah, perfect. So this is the resource. You can see where each category, and the students can just use this as a mind map section for them to add their thoughts as they're looking through the heroes. And then if we go to the featured unsung, or the heroes page, which there is a STEAM section I wanted to show. Right here. Yep. So you see on the website, they have a STEAM hero section. There's over 30 heroes to pick from. So that's when I do these speed meets. I pick 20, but you can pick, you could have students look at all 30, if 30 plus if you want to. And I have a 5-minute timer. I say 5 minutes, go through this. You're going to pick 5 minutes. Say I look at Dorothea Lange, boom, go. Next 5 minutes, even if they didn't finish. And I find having students wanting to learn more is great. That's really where you want them. You want them to say, wait, that was too fast. Because in the end, you want them to go back and whittle down, and they're going to eventually pick one of these heroes to make their full ARTEFFECT project. But by creating that sense of urgency and saying, all right, here's 5 minutes, draw Sylvia Earle or Dr. Earle, draw this, do. So that's where they use the worksheets. They do the speed meets, and then we'll go to the collaborative connections. Let's the next slide here. And instead of Hall of Fame, you could call it Hall of Influence, because the whole concept is these unsung heroes don't have fame, right? They're these incredible people that have changed the world. And I like Leslie's add-on. She says it'd be fun for them to give a speech after about why their person is most important. So that's gonna, you're already jumping ahead. Leslie knows how to do it. So let's go to collaborative connections. This is a slide that I created with my dad, who should be on the line here somewhere, as what I've done with my father. We did one of the elements of, before I did Braver Schools, we did a lot of conflict. I helped do a couple conflict resolution trainings, and this is his data, and this example shows 5 basic skills of conflict resolution, right? When you think about the categories, there's avoid, accommodate, compromise, compete, and collaborate. And it's based on the relationship, your relationship with the other person, as well as your relationship with the outcome. But the reason I bring this visual in is to show the key is collaboration. And I've always been passionate about collaboration. I collaborate as much as possible. I try to collaborate with the teachers in my department, but I think that makes the school stronger. That makes your project stronger. So collaboration is almost 50% used in conflict resolution. Okay, we're gonna keep going. And then, so your hall of influence, again, instead of hall of fame, you have your planning, and then you pick one person per category and you say why, right? Why is this your top scientist? Why is this your top tech choice, your top engineer? And then after you do that, and you could create a hall of influence art show if you wanted to as well. After the next step, once you've narrowed it down to a top choice in each category in STEAM, let's go to the next slide, is what we say full steam ahead. You're now going to create. So let's look at the creations. These are some examples that are on the website that have picked specifically STEAM STEAM people from the vetted heroes in the Lowell Milken Center. So we've got Mohammed makes his mark on math. This was created by an 8th grade student. I picked this piece to focus on because it's a great example of mixed media. What we're trying to do, one of the things we really want to do is, as wonderful as incredible portraits are, with supplemental, background context clues and resources, we want to try to think even past the portrait. How did that person change the world for the better? How did they use their creativity, their collaboration, their innovation? How did they use science, technology, math to make their mark? So this piece really shows, and it's not just a flat portrait, right? We're going deep into the story of the person and the story of that person's influence. So let's go to the next one. This is the exemplary. You can't not show this piece. This is an incredible piece. So even though it's a portrait, it's not a centered portrait, right? And look at everything happening around here. I'm seeing so many things, and I see the little vials, I see different faces, I see so much happening. So this is, while it is a portrait, it extends the story beyond. And then a couple more artifact winners will show. I love this one because of the way it used printmaking, right? And this was, I think, another middle school student as well, like an 8th grade student. They have block printing, and you can see, even just looking at the art, okay, I see a heart, I see blue, I see colors. There's a lot of context clues. We'll keep going just because of time. We show this because Hedy Lamarr is incredible. She is known for her role as a beautiful actress, but her science contributions are not as well known. What's interesting is, right, these were both successful pieces. It's the same person. They picked the same person, but it's 2 different approaches. One is digital, one's by an 8th grade student. I think this was your student, right? Constantine, wasn't this from the student from your school?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Chloe.
So that's yeah.
Yes.
So it's incredible. You got to tell her that she's her piece we're talking about, because it's so incredible.
Will do.
And it's really beautiful, and you can see both of these are outstanding. Same person, same subject, but 2 different approaches. All right, we're going to keep going. So now we get to the critique and tweak. And I feel like when you critique art, it's difficult. A lot of students aren't really, yay, let's critique my work. But critique is a really passionate, important part about the art process. So I do, again, if you can see the theme, I create a sense of urgency. This is another piece from one of my students. This portrait was done by one of my AP students. So I do round robin critiques. And you can see in the lesson plan, I give you several suggestions for questions. These are the question categories. You can use my questions or find your own, but I do 5-minute timer. The artwork stays at a station. It's either standing up on an easel or flat. You have a lined paper next to it, and you're going to say, okay, here's question number 1. They write the response. I put music on. I've done it also as like a freeze critique where I put music on, I freeze the music. They have to find a different piece. They then sit down at that person's station. They write their feedback. They also have to sign it, because it's important to have ownership. You don't want a student just writing stuff without signing it. They sign their name. Next station, And so you get feedback from 10 peers based on these really powerful questions. So in the next, if you want to look through these question suggestions, and we have them we put it in the PowerPoint. So I want
Yeah,
to give you
it's on 2 slides ahead. It's in the PowerPoint, and it's also on page 8 in Jen's lesson plan. So if you go to the next slide, Peter, I think we've dropped them in there so you can see the reference.
So these are questions I've used, but you can change these however you want. Maybe this is overwhelming. Maybe you only do 5 questions. Maybe you have students do it themselves, but I like the round robin critique. I think it helps. So as you're looking through these, we were going to ask for if there's anything that you think could be added to these questions. But I do want to keep us more mindful of time. So I'm going to keep going, but I want you to look through these and pick and choose. And then the next slide is the modifications and extensions. We did some of them along the way, right? The left and the right hand, or the non-dominant hand drawing. We talked about the Stroop effect, using the association of the mouth and foot painting artists. So all of those are extensions. The coloring book can be much more used more as an extension as well. But let's go to the next slide. The other thing is I do a lot with perspective. In drawing 1, I teach 1 and 2 point perspective. In advanced drawing, I teach 3 and 4 point. That's more technical skills, but when you're talking about perspective, this leads right into STEAM. You have to think outside the box. Again, we're problem solvers, we're design thinkers. So I've done units where we talk about surrealism. When instead of just drawing boxes in 2 point perspective, which is a very technical assignment that a lot of drawing teachers will teach, it's saying, do something surreal like this. Or I've had students rank their interests. I'll say, let's pick a topic. What are your top 10 favorite movies? Draw them in perspective. What are the top 10 social issues according to you? Draw those in perspective. The closer to the vanishing point, it's more important. And so you can use technical skills. This is where I like to, I fuse art education with art therapy. While yes, you're learning technical skills, you're learning perspective, you're still doing this with a personal twist. So you could use traditional perspective and layer or rank social issues around your unsung hero. And then the next extension I've done is steampunk art. That is specifically literally about steampunk style. We've done traditional drawings using gears, using mixed media, keys, drawing from observation. This is a student who actually used her old math homework within the piece, which is kind of interesting. And she created that work. So these are all, I told Tony when we were reviewing this, that all of this is a lot of content. This could easily be a full marking period. So I'd rather give you too much and let you pick and choose and say, hey, I'm going to try steampunk today, or I'm going to do the Stroop effect next marking period. So all of these are just activities that can help build and get a deeper dive into your unsung hero. We do have an impact statement. I don't have a slide for that, but in the lesson plan, I talk about, and you'll see that in the other lesson plans that are similar, the steps to write the impact statement, which is the final part of the submission. All right. So let's go to the next slide. I like to show this. This I got also from my father. He first shared this with me, which I just thought was so interesting. Has anyone seen these watermelon before? This shaped watermelon? So no, but yes. So why am I showing you a watermelon? Why is this interesting?
Oh, I think they're cool because I've seen the videos about how you make them, but it's really interesting as you talk about packaging and shipping and efficiency of a way of taking something that is inefficient in nature, but trying to make it more efficient is very cool.
And it was actually originally created because it was based on, it was a design contest in the late 70s, and the artist designed this to be more efficient. So there's so many examples of design projects that you can use. There's ample material out there. I just wanted to use this module to give you a framework to talk about STEAM, look through the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes, look through their STEAM examples. And I'm eager to see what your students create with all these modules, throughout this year. I think we're going to get a lot of great work. So we're going to transition to question and answers now. If anybody has any questions. or you want me to elaborate more on any of the specific exercises I do?
Jen, thank you so much. We have plenty of time for some Q&A and discussion. So you have given us so much there to think about, and just what is innovation, the steampunk, the conflict resolution, the Hall of Influence, all these activities. And I know that we're all processing, but while we have Jen, if you have any questions, ideas, thoughts, what are you excited about most? Let's just take some time and feel free to go unmute yourself. You can post a question in the chat if you prefer to do that, and we can just have some discussion about some of these ideas.
Hi, Jen. It's Jada from Philadelphia. I just want to say thank you for sharing all of this. I love how you incorporated the brain. I feel that really feels very appropriate right now post-COVID, and brings in that whole SEL focus of them thinking about themselves and how they're thinking about their thinking, that metacognition, so to speak. So I cannot wait to bring this to my students. I'm so excited. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I think I love showing the student examples. Like Tony said, all the work is student examples over the years. And I love that, I say, draw your brain. We talk about the brain. You could see the examples range completely, especially that's why I showed the last one of just the explosion of creativity and all the things happening that he illustrated. Oh, I see Leslie is raising her hand. Leslie, what you got?
Go ahead, Leslie.
Jen, first off, this was fantastic. I really enjoyed all of this. I have like 20 pages of notes for our STEM teachers. We have a STEM elective for middle school, which is meant to be like an introduction to our engineering track. And I really liked the ideas because middle schoolers, sometimes it's very difficult for them to kind of get into it with the way they think. And I like immediately with the watermelon, I was thinking, okay, so if you're saying this was a design solution to a weird problem of, having them first do that discussion you said of why is it innovative, but then like have them find their own kind of problem and figure out a way to fix it that doesn't necessarily require them to have actual engineering skills, and to use drawings to do that, I think is just such a cool way to take something really complex potentially and allow them a different way of kind of working through the problem. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of STEAM, is just problem solving. The more we can let our students be problem solvers and think differently, that's the key to really everything, I think. I'm getting a lot of lovely comments. Thank you.
Oh, we have a lovely comment coming from Mevlida. Thank you, Mevlida. It's so nice to see you on the call tonight. That inspiring, and that you have a passion for teaching, Jen, that comes across, and we all agree with that. It's been informative and enjoyable. Any other questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself. I wanted to add, while people are thinking, or any other questions that are coming through, about the coloring books, because you had a modification extension that could be really good for the lower levels, like the elementary school. But really, it's for all ages, is what you were saying, and what we were kind of underscoring, that it's like coloring is for everyone at all ages in terms of mindfulness. But I really like that kind of flexibility, and just the easy use of that to go up and down in the scalable lesson with the drawings.
And it is a great, like I said, addition, where I have all my coloring books in the classroom for if you finish something early, take a look. And it's not just a mindless coloring book too, let them color. There's a lot of great coloring books, but you're learning about people, you're being inspired by them as you're coloring. And the one thing I really will advocate for, that I do, back to Roger Sennett, is the artist of the day. Even though students kind of roll their eyes in the beginning, they're, well, if we have news go on too long, the morning news, they're, what about the artist of the day? So they do like it, and it gives you a quick chance to show so many different types of artists.
And the other thing I wanted to, thank you, Jen. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is when you were showing us the examples of previous award-winning students in the ARTEFFECT competition, we saw, like what you were saying, the conceptual examples, which I think is really interesting with the STEAM lesson, because you know, it's not narrative per se, like when we're talking about that in storytelling lesson or character and values that come through, but that there's a lot of room to explore conceptual representations through the STEAM, which I think your lesson really opens that up. So appreciate that too.
I
We
see
have
a comment about
okay.
How do you differentiate when you students take AP 2D one year and 2D drawing the other year? So I have never, since our school is really small, Maple Shade's a very small district, so we always run AP drawing. The AP 2D design students will take it the same year, and there's never more than 2 to 3 because they also have to have digital mixed media. So it's a little different. I never have a full group of AP, like I won't have 10 students in AP drawing and 10 students in AP 2D design. So I don't have that issue. I think that you could easily do this same project though with both classes even the next year, because it's different styles of art and you would have them focus on different unsung heroes. But that's a good question. So I know in schools, if you're teaching different, this could be done and not be like, oh, it's the same project again, because it is so different.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the question. Okay, so while you're thinking of questions, I'm going to move along and then we can pause again just towards the end of our program. We have about another 15 minutes or so. If you can stay, I wanted to, on the next slide, just remind everyone about the ARTEFFECT competition, which we are in the open submission period right now through May 1st. Very excited to be able to see some of the artworks that might come in from our ambassadors and for those of you who have students that are in grade 6 through 12. So the competition would invite submissions in all different mediums and would be an artwork with an impact statement that's 500 to 1,000 words. And this is a, just a reminder, if you want this poster, we have a digital download of this that you can share out with your classroom. And on the next slide, for those of you who are new to the competition, just a little bit more here about the prizes. So we have several prize categories. There's a grand prize of 6,000. A spotlight prize of 1,000 is for selected unsung heroes that we wanted to promote. So there's a group of unsung heroes that are specific spotlight heroes that are eligible for $1,000 prize on top of any other prizes. And then, as you can see, middle school and high school best in show and second place. And a little bit more about the competition. It's been running since 2016. Over 2,000 students have participated from around the globe. We bring together a judging panel of experts in the field from design, from museum education, art educators, art historians that use a rubric to score the artworks, and you have access to that rubric and you can introduce your students to the judging criteria so they can see how it breaks down. And then there's the exhibition opportunities, which I want to talk about, and obviously recognition for our art teachers that are participating. So on the next slide, I wanted to Jen showed us where we can go to the website and sort through the STEAM heroes, over 30 in that category, but there's the fuller list of unsung heroes. And just so you're aware, if you are wanting to look at that larger list, we have unsung heroes across history that span the different disciplines: civil rights, social justice, environment, with the STEAM heroes, as well as education, wartime heroes. So just be sure that you can browse that list. And then on the next slide, I wanted to show this because I know some of our ambassadors, those of you who have been joining the program throughout the year, have seen this. These are the heroic traits and actions that we've been looking at in terms of character, value, and the unsung heroes role models. And I wanted to bring it up because I thought it could be interesting to weave this into the lesson plan as well. Jen and I were looking at this. What are the qualities and traits, and what are the actions that are specifically possibly STEAM related? For instance, Jen was talking about a lot about problem solving, thinking outside the box, and things like challenge limitations, challenge the status quo, stand up for what you believe. Those can be opportunities that are actually connected to STEAM innovation and the character traits for STEAM unsung heroes, as well as like heroic traits like vision or the courage to try something new, to put yourself out there with an invention. So just wanted to put it out here because there's opportunity, I think, to weave these into your lesson plan as well. And on the next slide, I was mentioning that the award-winning artworks, students have the opportunity to exhibit their award-winning artworks at the Lowell Milken Center in Fort Scott, Kansas. There's an exhibition area there, as well as the new Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, or MCAD, which is a new facility that is currently under development. And we have in the works an exhibit for 3,000 square feet of gallery space that will be dedicated to ARTEFFECT artworks. So it's a very exciting opportunity for the students to have their artworks in a major metropolitan museum that is going to be, not even footsteps away from the White House, as you can see in this image, with the White House is off to the upper left in that image, and the MCAD is that building in the foreground on the right. So this is opening in later this year, early next year, 2024. So I wanted to highlight that. And I think that is it. Oh, on my next slide, I have more to share. Okay, so this is the steps to participate very quickly. For the ARTEFFECT competition, choose the unsung hero from the approved list. Look at the rules and guidelines. We have lots of resources online in terms of lesson plans and guidelines for writing the impact statement, and then submit through the online portal by May 1st. So obviously create the artwork and impact statement, step 3, and submit step 4. And then on the next slide, I wanted to just let everyone know that we have another module coming up on February 21st, Remembering the Holocaust. And our instructor for this module is Megan Helberg, who is also a Lowell Milken Center Fellow, but she's also an expert in Holocaust and genocide studies, and she is going to be leading us in this lesson that we'll be looking at specifically unsung heroes from the Holocaust and the visual representation of those individuals. So mark your calendars for February 21st. And then I put up here the links to the previous modules that we had: character and values, storytelling through art, and a Jen's lesson, which you can access online on the website. And also invite everyone to stay connected with us through the Facebook group. So I think that brings me to the end of my session about the competition. We have a few more minutes. You can always reach out at arteffect@lowellmilken.org if you have questions. And I want to thank Jen so much for this presentation.
I just wanted to mention, so with the new coloring book that's coming out, it's good timing because it is all women, and I'm planning to use it as a resource for Women's History Month. Even though I'm not going to be building it in, we already, aside from the ARTEFFECT project, that's another great kind of thing to do. We just want to include unsung heroes in as much of our curriculum as possible. And the one other thing I wanted to stress that I've said a lot is my students' work a lot of times does not get to the level where it could be submitted, or even if it's submitted, it's not, it may not win the competition. I think that that's really a secondary. The goal of this is to inspire students through the unsung heroes, to get them to produce art differently and to think differently. So I really want to reiterate process over product. So just even being, engaging the students through some of these activities would be great. You don't need to take it to a full project. Take what you like from the lesson plan and use it as you see fit. So I'm just happy to have the opportunity to be involved.
Jen, we're so happy to have you here. We have all been just enlightened by all that you have shared in terms of STEAM and all of the various activities of how to bring this together into a cohesive lesson plan, as well as how to unpack it, as you said, to use in various ways and integrate into other lessons. So I'm so thankful and so honored that you have led us through this lesson. Thank you so much. And I wanted to also mention in the chat, we've posted the certificate of participation for those of you who would like to download that and receive credit where you can for 75 minutes of professional development. We can take any final questions. If there's any final questions before we say goodbye, but anyone else would like to unmute or any final questions, go ahead and we can take that now.
Jen, Kathy tells me that your book will be published by March the 1st. Is that correct? And we want to make sure that all the ambassadors, Tony, get a copy of it. So however we can do that, we'll be glad to.
Yeah, I think okay, great. We could put a link to the website where you have that also available on the LMC website for everyone as well. So we are going to follow up with a recording and the lesson plan and some follow-up, and I can put that in there, as well as I wanted to make sure that everyone got a copy of Jen's flyer, which we put at the beginning for her Braver schools. So we can repost that so you can stay connected with Jennifer as well. Yeah, great.
Yes.
Well,
yep. So Kathy and I are we're just have the final proofread. There's a couple of things, just recoloring the cover, just fine tuning tweaks, but it's ready to go. So I can't wait to get that second book out and use it for Women's History Month and beyond.
So exciting. Thank you and congratulations on the book. All right, everyone. Well, we're gonna do a send-off. We can unmute everyone and we can say a collective goodbye, and we will see you at the next module in February coming up very soon. So let's all say goodbye and have a good night, and so nice to see everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, happy
Jen.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Good to see you,
Valentine's Day.
Jaime.
Nice to see you. Likewise.
Bye.